Welcome and thanks for joining us today. You are listening to the Restoria podcast produced by Lower Columbia Preservation Society. LCPS protects historic structures and sites, promotes active stewardship of historic properties, and supports preservation education in the Lower Columbia region of Oregon and Washington. Restoria podcast is pleased to bring you a variety of local voices today as we discuss vault lights. Enjoy. Hi, I'm Astronomer Ray, the Lower Columbia Preservation Society intern, and today we will be further discussing vault lights. So today I have some special guests with me, Merritt, the tile installer, and Jamie Boyd, the creator of the replacement tiles. So how long have you been repairing these tiles for?
I don't know, about 4 years, something like that.
Yeah, maybe 5.
Maybe 5.
Yeah.
And how did you first get involved? Is this like a volunteer position or is it something?
Yes, it's a volunteer position. I just became interested in them. I talked to Jeff Daly, who had an idea about tiles. His idea was plastic tiles. Then I think he pointed it to you, meaning Jamie, and that she had glass tiles. And when I talked to Jamie, she said she had some tiles, but nobody was buying them to put them in themselves, and she didn't have anybody to install them. So,
Yeah, Jeff, I just started on my own. Jeff wasn't doing it.
No, but Jeff had a different style.
Yeah,
He was going to put plastic tiles and
Yeah.
pour some epoxy or something.
Yeah, no, I just thought I could create something, and I looked for a mold that I could reuse for quite a while.
And when did you start making these tiles?
Probably about 7 years ago.
Well, what inspired you to begin creating them?
I just felt a need. There was a need for them, and I thought I could help build them up.
Plus, she's a glass artist, so she had all
Studio 11.
she had all the studio equipment and the glass to create them.
Wow, that's fascinating. Now, Ray, how long does it take you to repair one of these tiles?
Well, I don't repair the whole panel. I'm only replacing the glass. And I'm only replacing the glass that's actually broken that we seem to be leaking because there's a hole in it. And they take about, if there's 2 or 3 on a panel, I can probably do them in 20-25 minutes each. If there's only one that somebody wants, then it takes an hour or so because it takes time to set it up to get all my stuff. But if I have 2 or 3 in the same panel, they go a little quicker because I'm already set up and on the ground, so to speak.
Yes, and you mentioned getting set up. So what's the process you have to go through when repairing these tiles? Is there certain tools that you have to use?
Hammer and chisel, take out the old glass. Usually most of it's out already, just that's why we replace them. So I chisel out the old glass, and then because she's making glass that's individual, each one's slightly different shaped and size. So then I sit there and I find one that fits in the mold or fits in the hole.
And Jamie, how long does it take you to make these tiles? Is it sort of a long process or maybe it's a shorter process?
Well, no. I have to cut the glass a certain way, and fill the mold, and then I cut it in layers so there's less bubbles. And then in the kiln, it probably is a 12-hour firing in the kiln. So it takes a couple days to get it all put together.
Can you explain a little bit about the process of that?
So I started out with a plaster mold, which would break up too easily. Then I discovered a ceramic a board that that I can cut, and I can reuse it over and over again, where the plaster would break up too easily. So just getting the cut the right shape. I had a couple older ones that I could measure from. I've gone out and measured the basic shape.
So her process is layered glass that's then fused together and melted together, as opposed to liquid glass that's poured into a form.
Mm-hmm. And do you feel like that works better?
Yeah.
Well, it's our only solution right now, because the poured glass, we talked to at least one glass person locally, couldn't do it. And then I talked to many glass companies, and they said they could do it, but we'd have to have a run of like 10,000 of them or something. Mm-hmm. And nobody was going to pay for that because we basically do them one at a time or a few dozen at a time over the year.
Yeah.
So ordering thousands of them didn't make sense because the city wasn't funding it and the downtown wasn't going to pay.
So does the city have a certain requirement for the replacement tiles? Like, does it have to be a specific color?
At the time, there was a city planner, and the city planner gets to tell you how to repair the sidewalks and how to repair the glass. And at the time, like I said, Jeff Daly was thinking about pouring plastic in there or some sort of non-glass thing in the holes. They didn't approve of that. Then we brought them some glass, and they basically didn't like most of the colors. They ended up saying that probably the purple would be the only one they would approve at the time. Isn't that kind of how it went?
Yeah, purple or clear.
Purple or clear, and so we went with the purple.
Do you have a preference on the colors of the tiles? Do you think that they should all be purple, or maybe you would like to see another color?
Well, at this point, I mean, there's new planners, new people in the city, and they might have a different opinion, but at the time, it wasn't really a choice. They basically said what they would accept and what they wanted, so that's what we went with. And there's certain colors that are standard without having custom colors made. So we went with purple that was kind of what you'd call off-the-shelf color.
The reason that the glass is purple now is it has magnesium in it, and old glass, when the sun hits, it turns it purple. So those were originally clear to begin with, and then I chose a glass that is closest to the purple that I could find. I did approach the city about doing some more artistic ones, and they said no.
We had thought of a couple other projects where maybe the name of the people that support the glass would be put in the glass, or a logo would be put in. The city basically said no, it was either clear, slightly colored, a certain color, or basically forget it, we won't do it.
Yeah, so about how often would you say that you have to make your tiles?
Right now, I can do a run of 20 in a kiln load. I've done about 60. What? How many? Or no?
Well, I've installed about 150
150
over the 5 years or 4.5 years.
It's just kind of a slow. It depends upon the money. I hadn't been doing anything lately because of COVID right now. So, but
well, and I haven't been anxious to put them in the ground because a lot of times people come up and stand over you and talk to you, and I don't feel like I'm in the position of wanting to have people hanging over me and then working on the sidewalks, because I don't know how the virus is spread, and I don't know if sitting on the sidewalk is maybe the best thing for me. So I've been reluctant to do it this summer.
And when you're out there repairing the tiles, do you frequently receive questions about them?
A few. It's hard to work and answer all the questions. I mean, I've thought about putting a sign up next to me so people don't interrupt me and ask me, what color were they? Are they made out of glass? Some people think that there's some sort of gem or something that, they want a piece and have it cut or something, So the range of questions is all over the board, and it's just one of those things where you could sit there and talk about it, but you need to keep working. So you don't want to be rude, but you talk to people quickly.
Do you have an estimated cost of the tiles?
Well, I'll jump in. She had a price at one time, but she wasn't installing them, so that people could buy the tiles. What was it, 25 or something?
Yeah, originally it was 25, and then it came down.
You would have to install them, and she wasn't selling any of them. And so then that's when I talked to the downtown district, and they basically said, well, we'll buy them from her and then split it as far as what the business owner has to do. And she's gotten her price down because of manufacturing process down to, I think it's 15. So the downtown association pays her 15, and we charge the business $750, and the downtown district pays the other $750 so that she gets her full amount.
Quite recently, there was panels removed from in front of the Nordblatt building. So what was your reaction to seeing that?
Sad. Very sad.
Very sad.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys are sad too, because looking at it now, I never really counted the squares because I always looked at the ones that were missing. And so I didn't realize how many panels he had and how much, actually he had some of the best glass in town. So it's too bad that he removed it for both of those reasons, both the number of glass and the numbers of ones that are good, because on the downtown street of commercial, there's quite a few panels there, but some of them are over half cemented in, so, and broken on top of that, whereas he has quite a few that are undamaged, basically.
Is there a specific time of year that you prefer installing the new tiles?
Well, you can't do it when it's raining, because basically you're putting mortar in, which is cement, so you have to have some weather that allows that, and I'm not going to sit in the sidewalk in pouring rain to take them out. So basically, yeah, they're done in the summer times, probably from June to September.
So do you have anything else to add about sidewalk tiles that maybe not everybody knows?
Well, there's a whole history about sidewalk, not just here, but originally it was because there was no light source. It would light up the basements, or in a ship, it would light up the hulls. And so if you go through, if you want to go through the historical reason for them, that might be a way for the Preservation Society to bring awareness to this particular
Ours were put in
process.
1923, and you have to realize about that time that electricity was still fairly expensive and uncommon as far as to light up dark areas. So it was a way you might have one electric light bulb in the basement and then this glass that would light up. And most of the basements were used for storage, so they were.
But there's, several in Seattle, San Francisco, New York. They're all over the United States.
Again, go to sidewalkglass.com and you'll see some of the paperwork that I got from both Jamie and from Jeff Daly, and from Rosemary Johnson, who was the planner at the time that we started this project.
And would you say this is more of a independent or collaborative project?
It's kind of collaborative. I had Larry Ostman. He was helping me with cutting the molds, working on that part of it. But other than that,
It just kind of organically happened. I mean, I am a retired teacher, and I thought it was an interesting project. I know Jamie from an art organization, Restoria Visual Arts, and so she was like, well, I'm making them, but nobody's buying them because they can't install them. And I said, well, then I'll learn how to install them, and unless it's too complicated. And it ended up that it just takes time. It's not that complicated. And so then her friend Larry taught me how to do one, and so I've done the rest of them.
How has the process of creating these tiles changed over time?
Only the color and the size. The bottom part, if you look at it, we've made it smaller so you don't have to chip out as much of the old glass. So the smaller base works out for me to install. And then as far as cost and process, the first ones were I think completely purple glass. So it made them darker and more expensive. And so she was able to get the cost down by putting a lot of white glass. And it really doesn't change the color much when you're looking down at the ground, because most basements aren't lit, so you can't really tell if it's dark or light.
Yes, and Jamie, when you first began creating the tiles, what was that like? Did you have to go out and measure them first and to get an idea of the size?
Well, I had a woman in town. She gave me an original tile, which is more shaped like this. There are a few openings that have the bigger, and then a lot of them are the smaller. So, just going out physically, measuring an open hole is how I did it. And so just adjusting a little bit here and there. It might be 1/8 of an inch or less or something like that is the difference. And just making the molds is kind of the tricky part. Make sure it's easy and reusable. So.
Now, finally, why would you encourage someone to replace broken or damaged tile?
Because it looks nice.
Well, it's a historic town. People come here for a little bit of history, whether it's the Victorian houses on the hill or just the history of the town. So to have the glass that was a part of history seems like it's a kind of a natural fit to keep it.
I also work in the tourist industry, and we get a lot of comments about how they look, how they look nicer, and how come you haven't replaced them all yet? That's a big question.
Because I'm not paid.
This is just the labor of love. I'm not making any money off of it.
And Ray here has a website called sidewalkglass.com for any listeners who are further interested in that.
So yeah, please look at Sidewalk Glass,
Yeah.
sidewalkglass.com, and you can get an idea of what was there. You have to look it up. I don't remember exactly what's there, but some of the paperwork that we've gotten about other cities and the history of the glass and that kind of stuff.
Some
There's a
photos.
couple of pictures of me learning how to install it and installing the first couple.
Well, thank you both, Ray and Jamie, for being here today. I appreciate hearing about the tile installation as well as the process of making them. And thank you guys for listening. I'm Astronomist Ray. And that does it for this episode of the Restoria podcast, produced by Lower Columbia Preservation Society. For more information on vault lights and other topics, please visit lcpsociety.org and consider becoming an LCPS member. Thank you for listening.